Hey everybody, have you considered starting a podcast? We here at Screwball highly recommend Podbean for getting your podcast out to a larger audience. Podbean has given us the ability to easily bring you Screwball each and every week on all of your favorite podcast services. Use the link podbean.com/screwball to sign up and save up to 35% annually. You can also use the link podbean.com/pro/screwball to sign up for a business subscription. Happy podcasting. Hey everybody, welcome back to Screwball, a baseball podcast, your home for everything baseball. I'm your host, Mike Lepre, here with my co-host, Frank White.
Hey, how's it going?
So this is our first episode of 7 that we're going to do our predictions episode for 2021, our second annual, following our inaugural year in Screwball. We did a rundown of every division, team by team, just kind of outlining the team's depth chart and what we're thinking of them, and just general thoughts on the division as a whole. We will save generally our overall thoughts for the last episode before the season starts to give a kind of final overall predictions episode. But for the time being, we're just going to give our overall thoughts on all 5 teams in all 6 divisions. So like we started last year and probably will start every year, we will start with the AL East and work our way AL East, AL West, AL Central, and then AL West, and then move back to the NL, NL East, NL Central, NL West, and then conclude with the overall predictions. So we'll start with the AL East, and we are going to go from what we preliminarily kind of think is bottom to top, and talk about the teams that need a little bit of work as compared to the teams that are kind of ready to go. So naturally, we're going to start in the AL East with the Orioles. I'm just going to give a quick rundown of some players, and then we'll just discuss as we kind of come up on players we like or don't like, or if there's prospects or whatever we want to talk about. So the lineup I have here, projected lineup, according to rotochamp.com, which is where I got all my info for this, is Austin Hayes, DJ Stewart, Anthony Santander, Trey Mancini. I believe, is he good to go for?
Yep.
Okay, good for him. Chance Sisco, Ryan Mountcastle, Freddie Galvis, Rio Ruiz, and Yolmer Sanchez, I believe that's how you say his name. And then the projected rotation is John Means, Keegan Aiken, Dean Kramer, Jorge Lopez, and Felix Hernandez. Then there's there's bullpen arms and bench names, but we'll get into that as we kind of talk about them. So what are your initial thoughts on this squad and where they could possibly place in 2021 and beyond?
Yeah, they have a few good guys here. John Means is a decent pitcher. Wade LeBlanc is a journeyman, but he can get you some innings. They did sign Matt Harvey, which is you're not really going to get much out of him, but it's Matt Harvey. King Felix they have as well. I mean, pitching wise, and then the bullpen they have a bunch of really no-namers, younger guys, but really no name. Hunter Harvey is supposed to be pretty good. I think out of their pitching wise, for the most part, you just got guys who are going to eat innings. And other than John Means, I think John Means could be there for a little while. The other guys if they pitch well, you trade them. King Felix, he could be a veteran, help everything, but you trade him if he gets value. Wade LeBlanc, same thing. Matt Harvey, same thing. Those guys are just, tradable pieces if they pitch well. Position player wise, I mean Severino and Sisco, they don't really have a bunch. Those are the 2 catchers. They don't really have a bunch they're going to trade away. Mancini, he's got some value, but I don't know if they'll trade him away. Yolmer Sanchez, a guy who has a little bit of value if he plays well. Freddie Galvis is definitely a tradable guy. Chris Davis, no one's going to touch. Austin Hayes, Mullins, or Santander, they're way too young for them to be trading, really. Stewart, another guy I don't think they'll really trade. So they don't got many pieces they could trade other than a couple pitchers and, Galvis and maybe Sanchez. For the most part, their team's pretty much, that's just it. It's not that great. They have a couple tradable pieces, but I always like to throw some prospects out there. They got a few real good ones. Adley Rutschman, the catcher they drafted a couple years ago. We'll expect to see him pretty soon. Grayson Rodriguez, a right-handed pitcher. He's another guy who, they drafted relatively high. I believe he was drafted relatively high. They have a pretty good farm system. Another guy, Heston Kjerstad, I believe his name is. D.L. Hall. So that's 4 guys there. I mean, most of these prospects on any of these teams I talk about, most of them are going to be top 100. And if they're not top 100, they'd be like the top 125. These are the top or higher guys. So their farm system's in pretty good shape. They got a pretty relatively deep. I would say they're probably ranked top 10 farm system. Just the team's not that great, and they have a few tradable pieces which help. But overall, I mean, like I said, it's mostly just whatever pieces you could trade away, whatever young pieces you can kind of let them play and get some stats and see where they're at. And then just let the prospects develop. That's pretty much where they're at.
Yeah, that's kind of sums it up perfectly. I mean, the team is, at least, pitching wise, is not very good. Just based on their 2020 stats, a lot of their starting pitching was not very good at all. John Means, I think, has the most talent, and at least I think both of us agree on that.
Talent left.
Yeah, because I mean, Felix is there, and obviously, you don't know what you're going to get out of him. But I think that John Means has the most talent that they got right now, like that he's got left, in him. And even he had a pretty high ERA last season, if I'm not mistaken. So pitching wise, they're not in good shape. The lineup is okay. The lineup's could give you some games where they give you something. It could score a few runs and give some teams some fits, but overall not going to run up the tally on you or anything like that. So overall, the team's not in a competitive shape right now. But like you said, with the prospects, they've got some pieces coming. Ryan Mountcastle's here and he's ready to play. Adley Rushman is just about they're really excited about him, and when he comes up, that's probably going to when they're going to try to make this team try to build around him.
Oh, yeah. Well, you get someone who's a top catcher, and you can build your team around a catcher. That's great because he's going to be there for 10 years. He's going to frame out your pitching and how their pitching rotation works. So getting a franchise catcher is a big thing.
Yeah, for sure. So I know that a lot of Oriole fans are excited to see him, but I don't see them being placing any different than I had them projected last year and where they placed last year. Did they end up getting fourth and the Red Sox got fifth, or was it they both kind of fought for the cellar?
I don't know. I like to think the Orioles were last.
Yeah, I honestly am not sure because I know the Red Sox were very not good last season.
But the Orioles will be at the bottom this year.
That's why I kind of figured.
With 100 and, let's just say a 140 game season. If anything crazy happened, 140 games they're going to be at the bottom. But with 162, obviously is the plan. They'll be at the bottom. There's just not enough talent there. Unless all these prospects get called up and all their young guys just play super well, I still don't see them being. Maybe they'll be the fourth seed. But.
Yeah, that's kind of where we projected them last year. Like I said, I will do a full. We're gonna do full, with where we think their record and where they'll end up ultimately. But that's why I kind of figured we'd start with them because they probably are the weakest team out of the bunch. So not ready to go yet, but there is hope and there's going to be some excitement, I think, in Baltimore soon.
We definitely got some prospects and some younger players like Hayes and Mullins and Santander who have been up in the league who aren't prospects anymore, who are pretty good. Mancini, if you keep around, Cisco's supposed to be pretty decent. Mountcastle's really not considered much of a prospect anymore. He's going to be really good. And then the prospects we did go into. They got a pretty good system even deeper than that. So they'll be pretty good. It's just they got a hard division and really a hard AL. Because even the AL Central with the Twins and White Sox and the Tigers going to be pretty good here pretty surely. And then the AL East. And then the West is, you don't really know what you're getting out of there.
Mm-hmm.
But so it's going to, it's going to be hard fought, but they'll be pretty good here. And, I would say within the next 3 years, I think maybe by year 3 they might be in the playoffs, or at least right on the cusp in the hunt all year long.
Yeah, which is that's kind of what they want. So this isn't, they're not trying to be the dominant team this year. It's just not, they know it's realistic and fans know it's realistic. So we'll see what happens with them, but they got some talent coming. The next team we want to talk about is the Boston Red Sox, who I'll go over just like I did with the Orioles. They have a projected lineup of Alex Verdugo, Xander Bogaerts, Rafael Devers, J.D. Martinez, Christian Vasquez, Hunter Renfroe, Frenchie Cordero, Bobby Dahlbeck, and Kike Hernandez. That's their projected lineup. You don't know where guys like Michael Chavis or Marwin Gonzalez are going to slot in because they kind of play everywhere. So keep them in mind. And then the rotation is, as of opening day, Nathan Eovaldi, Eduardo Rodriguez, Garrett Richards, Martin Perez, and Nick Pivetta. Chris Sale will be back, in May or, unless there's a real setback, June. So expect Chris Sale back before the All-Star break, I would think. So you slot him in there. That's a better rotation than they had last year, let's say that. So with this team in particular, I think the top of the order is still pretty good. I think that's where, they obviously get the edge on, at the very least in the lineup, they get an edge on the Orioles. Because Alex Verdugo played well last year. Bogarts is always good. Devers, although has been kind of hot and cold sometimes. I think he's going to be good. JD Martinez didn't really have a JD Martinez year last year, but give him a full season, could be different. Then it kind of falls off with guys like Frenchie Cordero and Bobby Dahlback and Hunter Renfroe, guys like that. But the top of the lineup is pretty solid. Christian Vasquez throw in there. So I think they'll hit okay. The rotation's a little better. The bullpen's still not great. So pitching is still a big problem for them. And really a team that I wouldn't say is necessarily on the decline, but you kind of never know where the Red Sox are going. They seem to be the team that's just, World Series and then the worst. The World Series and then cellar. And, so I don't know where exactly they'll be, but if I were a betting man, I would say that they're going to be, not as competitive as the Rays, Blue Jays, or Yankees. So that's why I figured we kind of talk about them earlier on.
Yeah. On my list here, we start with mostly, it's all pitchers for the most part. So the Red Sox, you got Chris Sale coming off of an injury. Really 2 injuries, but an injury last year, missing the whole year. He'll be back, I would say, Mother's Day. You're talking, I would say, before then. I would say June 1st, at least, he'll be back.
Yeah.
Eduardo Rodriguez, he had issues last year regarding COVID and stuff like that, so he's supposed to be back. Evaldi kind of always seems to have some sort of issue. Garrett Richards always does have an issue.
Yeah.
Nick Pivetta. So they got some pitchers here, some names. They all kind of have their question marks, though. Bullpen-wise, you got Matt Barnes, Ryan Brazier, Adam Ottavino. That's pretty much, the big guys out there who they're decent. That's pretty much how this is. Obviously these guys can do really good, or all these guys can do, not great, or a few of them, it's just you don't know what you're getting. There's no one that you can really pin down. The only one you can say is probably Sale, but he's coming off injury. Then you go into some position players. Vasquez, what's he, a 220 hitter? That's pretty much what you get. Michael Chavis, another one, is really only like a 230 hitter, but he's got a bunch of power. Dahlback is a prospect. I think he's still considered on the prospect list, but he's going to be in the majors this year. Kike Hernandez, he's a veteran guy at this point. Rafael Devers, young guy, he's got to bounce back. Bogarts, younger guy, obviously one of the better players, but he's also got to bounce back. This whole team's got to kind of bounce back. I think where they really hurt is really their team defense is not going to be good because Michael Chavis is not a great defender. Dahlback's supposed to be pretty good, so that's where you put him. Kike Hernandez is, I would say, above average at whatever position you put him at, but no, lockdown Gold Glover. He's a pretty good defender, but give him just one position and let's see his defensive stats.
Yeah.
Devers, he's not great at third base consistently. Could be, but consistently not great.
Yeah.
Bogarts seems to be one of the higher error guys at shortstop. Not bad over there, just seems to always make stupid plays, or he just does a stupid throw, something stupid with him. It always seems to be higher on the errors list.
Yep.
And then your outfield just got way worse defensively because you got Hunter Renfroe, who's not really not a defensive guy; he's a power guy. Frenchie Cordero is probably more of an offensive guy than a defensive guy. Alex Verdugo is because he plays good defense, but now he's your center fielder. Is he really a center field type player?
Yeah.
We'll see. And then your other guy is JD Martinez in the outfield, who's not a good defensive player. So defensively, they didn't get much. They got worse, I think. Offensively, they're going to hit. They got some power. Frenchie Cordero's got some massive power. Renfroe, that's what he does.
Mm-hmm.
Devers, if he could just get back to similar what he was, and Bogarts, they're going to be able to hit pretty well. JD Martinez got to play it somewhat better. Their pitching's all question marks, though, which it has been. I think bringing back Alex Cora shows you that they kind of still want to win, but I don't know if this team's really capable of winning unless all of them play very well, which, they could, but odds are, their best bet is maybe chasing a end of the line wild card spot. Prospect-wise, they got Jeter Downs, who's a middle infielder, first base prospect Tristan Cassis, who's like 6'5", big guy.
I think I heard of him, yeah.
Yeah, he's supposed to be pretty good. A pitcher, Brian Mata, and another pitcher, Jay Groom, who's a big lefty who, we kind of know I played against, actually. So we know kind of on a more personal level, big guy who's had a bunch of injuries. Seems like that's what the Red Sox kind of are around. But I believe they only have 2 guys. The first 2 guys, I think, were on the top 100. Maybe, I think Mata might have been, but he was right at the bottom. So they really got 3 guys. So their farm system's decent. It's probably the late teens into the 20s, early 20s is probably where this farm system is. Yeah. I would say maybe at best. But really, they got some trade pieces. Mm-hmm. At worst, is what this team is. If Voldy plays well, Richards plays well, these guys play well, but the team's not doing good, you can trade them away and get pieces back. So that's pretty much where this team's at. If they play well, great. Maybe they'll contend for a wild card spot. It's going to take some work, but maybe they could contend. The team's got some talent, it's just not all that great.
Yeah.
But the system's okay, and they have trade pieces. So if the season goes kind of how you expect it to go, they'll trade some pieces, get some prospects, and kind of be not really a full rebuild, but like a quick retooling. But they got some talent, so they'll have something to watch at least compared to last year. So that's pretty much where they're at. But really, the best bet for them is chasing the tail end of a wild card spot, I think, unless they all play really good.
No, I agree. They're just not quite all there. Like I said, the offense is probably their best aspect, or could be their most consistent aspect. The pitching, while you have Sale, he is coming off an injury. I do think that he'll still be fine. And like you said, with Eovaldi, has his problems. Garrett Richards always has his problems.
Even Rodriguez, always seems to have something. I mean, last year really not much of his fault, but always seems to have something.
Yeah. So I'm sure there will be some issues at some point that'll pop up, and the bullpen's just not great. The future, prospect wise, doesn't look like they have like a big wave coming or anything. It looks like the big wave came and went with Mookie Betts and others. Rafael Devers and Bogarts and all those guys. So. I don't know where they're heading or where their head's at. Maybe they trade some of these guys. I don't know who would take JD Martinez's contract, especially if he doesn't start producing like how he could have a few years ago, because last year he was pretty bad.
Yeah, and then you take him out of one of the more offensive stadiums too.
Yeah,
and offensive division.
Yeah, I mean maybe the theory is that if you get him on a contender, maybe that triggers him a little bit. But
you're in a lineup that produces, who is supposed to produce. So it's not like the team doesn't hit around him. It's like the team's kind of built on hitting.
Yeah.
So he shouldn't be, he's sandwiched in between some pretty good guys.
Yeah. Yeah, so I don't know with this team. Like I said, I think they have more work ahead of them than the other teams. That's why we kind of talked about them earlier. Not that there's no talent here, because there is talent. It's just they're not as complete of a puzzle as these next few teams. So with that said, let's move on to the next team. It's kind of hard picking out these next two teams. I'm probably going to have to, it's going to come down to the wire where I ended up putting these two teams next, but I figure the next team we talk about would be the Rays because, and for me personally, I think the reason more would be that the Rays made more significant subtractions than the Blue Jays. Blue Jays made pretty big additions, where the Rays made some subtractions. So to go through the Rays lineup in rotation, they have Austin Meadows, Brandon Lau, Randy Rosarena, G-Man Choi, Manuel Margot, Joey Wendell, Willie Adames, Kevin Kiermaier, Mike Zunino. And the rotation is Tyler Glasnow, Rich Hill, Chris Archer, Ryan Yarborough, Michael Wacha. Obviously, the rotation took a hit without, Charlie Morton and without Blake Snell. So you got guys slotted in there like Rich Hill, who's like 40. You got Chris Archer, who has been not good with the Pirates. Obviously,
and missed all last year.
Yeah, so obviously the Rays do work some magic with the pitching, so you can't completely write them off. And then you got Michael Wacha in there, who has a long overdue return to form, so you could get something out of him. But the rotation, it took a significant hit from their trades and lack of being able to sign free agents, or like significant free agents, I should say. The lineup is scrappy still. You don't know what you're getting out of Randy Rosarena. He's kind of a wild card. Are you going to get, a really good, not quite, playoffs Randy Rosarena, but are you going to get a real good 3-4 hitter out of him? That remains to be seen. So that is a big part of their lineup that has a big question mark on it. But the rest of the lineup, they're scrappy. They find a way to get runs, and I think that they're going to do that very well. And then the bullpen is, they throw hard. You got guys like Diego Castillo have a lot of movement on the ball. They signed guys like Colin McHugh, who could provide some. Maybe he could be an opener, or he could be a long reliever, or you never know what you get out of him. So they got some bullpen arms. Obviously, still Peter Fairbanks and Nick Anderson. They don't even have a slotted on RotoChamp. They don't even have one closer. They have 4. So who knows what's going on with the bullpen? I guess that'll just be by committee. So the Rays are a weird team to judge because they always seem to be bad on paper, and then they just play their game their way, and they do very well. So, like I said, the reason that I wanted to talk about them a little earlier than the Blue Jays was because I felt like they didn't quite do enough to be that World Series team like they were, or that scrappy. It just seemed like they lost a lot. Whereas the Blue Jays, I think, offensively are pretty good and did better. So, while I'll never count out the Rays, because they're just that team, I think that best case scenario, I guess if you get like what they had last year and you get really, really, you know, you get a lot of, their game gets played their way perfectly. I guess you could see maybe a division shot, but I think a wild card's a best case scenario for them.
Yeah, I mean the Rays, they figure it out. I think before I even get into players, go to the World Series and win or lose, it's hard to go back to next year. Go deep into the playoffs, it's hard to get there the next year. But especially you get to that World Series, especially you lose it the way they did, and then lose the players you did. It's really hard for them to really rebound, I think. But you go into Glass now, Cy Young candidate, hands down. There you go. Some of the best stuff you're gonna see. Brendan McKay, two-way player. He's good both ways. Yarborough, he's a pretty good pitcher. Really, even though they don't really talk about him or even they kind of mess around with what he does, he's pretty good. He's consistent. Archer, been there. You don't know what you're getting out of him. I'm going to say your best is probably a 4 or something. You're right at this point. Wonka, he's at least got some sort of potential to really turn around. If there's a team that could do it, Rays are definitely on that list. In the bullpen, you got a couple names. Nick Anderson, obviously in the playoffs last year, late in the playoffs, he struggled. But I think it's because of the usage. Yeah. Really just, pounded him. Diego Castillo's a good pitcher, but, he doesn't know where the ball's going. It's as simple as that. And then you got a couple guys who pitched really well last year, but, are they 1 to 2 year wonders, or are there names that we're going to learn and know now? And that's Peter Fairbanks, and Curtis. Those two guys pitched really well last year, but you never heard them before that.
Yeah.
So were they 1 2 year wonders, or are these names to know? You lost Jose Alvarado, traded him away, which is probably one of their best relievers. Had some of the nastiest stuff. So, and then getting to some of the position players, you signed Mike Zunino back, 200 hitter with some power. Francisco Mejia you traded for, who's was a top prospect and just never really kind of turned into anything, but he's still really young. G-Man Choi still hanging around. He's a good solid player. Yandy Diaz can hit. Not much defensively. Rozier, whatever. I don't even know how to. Everyone knows Chapman's guy.
Yeah.
He can hit lefties very well, but that's that's all.
Yeah.
He had his role, which is fine. They got Brandon Lowe. Another guy who's supposed to be a pretty high, prospect. He's played pretty well. Then you got Joey Lunchpail here, Joey Wendell. He's a great just slap the ball, kind of poor man's Ben Zobrist. Then Yoshi Tachituga, I don't even you got it. He's another one of the overseas players. You don't really know what you're getting out of those guys.
Yeah.
Willie Adames really played well last year.
Mm-hmm.
He really kind of took somewhat of a next step. So that's good for them. Austin Meadows had an awful year last year, but some of the best talent on the team, if not probably their best player.
Probably, yeah.
Rosarena. You're never going to be able to keep up the how good he was in the playoffs. So just scratch that. Can he get hot like that? Sure. Can you keep that? No. You're not going to. Or you're going to be one of the best hitters of all time. As a fielder, I don't think you're really asking him to field. It's probably where you're at with him. Kevin Kiermaier, that's all you're asking him to do, because he can hit. If he plays, he's always hurt. Manuel Margot played somewhat all right last year, and then I threw Brett Phillips on here because he don't know. He's just still doing the airplane somewhere, running around. So their team is just kind of, they have their roles. This is your job. This is the way you really should build it. But they don't really have that downright, we're locked in. These 5 guys are going to be that's what they do. They have some guys who are going to have to come back, have some guys who are going to have to have good years again or have better years or, stuff like that. They lost a lot of pieces, and like I said, it's hard to come back after losing the World Series or getting to the World Series or even winning the World Series. Hard to come back that next year. So we'll see where they're at. I think they're contend for a wild card spot. They might be in the division race for a while. I just don't think at some point it's just they're eventually gonna have to slide back down because the talent's they're gonna get outmatched. They have the best thing with them. They have probably a top 5 farm system. I don't know if they're ranked 1. I don't know where they're ranked by by MLB Network and all these other places, but they're top 5. They have like 5 guys in the top 100, so they can make moves to trade for somebody who's got eligibility for 3 years or so. And then make this team that extra piece. Here's that reliever. Here's that starter. Here's a hitter. All of a sudden now they're World Series bound again. But it's going to take that, or some of these prospects come up and play well. You got Wander Franco, who was the number 1 prospect in baseball. Luis Patino, who they got in the San Diego trade. He's a top 20 prospect and one of the best pitching prospects in baseball. Vital Brujan, who's a middle infielder. He's a young guy. Probably won't see too much this year. Xavier Edwards, another middle infield guy. Middle infielder are always even higher when you try to trade them. You really see those this year. Pitcher Shane Baz. They always got pitching. Another pitcher, Shane McClendon or McClanahan. really good. Those guys are, I believe, all those guys. They're all top 100 guys. And then you got Brent Honeywell Jr., who's really, I don't think even considered much of a prospect anymore. But he hasn't pitched because he had some injuries. He was a top prospect. He was like a top 5, top 10 prospect in baseball. I don't think he's considered much of a prospect because he was supposed to be on the MLB team last year. But he's another one that's supposed to be really good coming back from injuries. So they have a great farm system. And they have a pretty decent team on paper.
Mm-hmm.
They could be better. But really, I think you're talking, by just looking at them, odds are you're probably talking somewhere around 500 and to the wild card spot. They could play a little worse than that, and they could play a lot better than that. But they're in a pretty decent spot. We're like, okay, we're all right. We can make our moves to get better. But they're looking at them. They're young. Their prospects are ready to go. It just matters how they want to do it. Do they actually want to start paying somebody? No. Are they going to trade for somebody? We don't know. So they're just very, you don't know what you're getting out of them. But, I mean, I think you're sitting around a wild card team with these guys. And they have some really good, exciting players.
Yeah, for sure. They, by the way, are the number 1 ranked farm system in the league.
I just said it had to be.
Yeah.
They had 5 top 100s, and that's a guy without Honeywell who was like a top 5 prospect. So
yeah,
I don't know where you throw him at, but you got 6, really, you want to go. You have 6 guys who are from the top 100.
Yeah, they didn't even include him. So, yeah. And that without him, they're still number 1. It says they were ranked number 1 for the last 3 rankings they did.
Yeah,
so,
and I would say if you want to go deeper than that, they probably have 7, 8, 9 guys in the top 150.
Yeah, definitely.
And then you have guys who just came up who aren't prospects anymore, who were, very good. Like, guys like Glass now who are, he's not a prospect anymore. Meadows, they're not prospects anymore. Very good. Rosarena, not a prospect anymore. He's very good. So, we still got very young guys who are still, really Adamas. These are still very young guys. They're still growing and getting better. So
yeah, this is what the Rays do, and they're probably just about the best in the league at it. Save, the A's are good at it too. That Moneyball kind of, we don't have a lot of money, but we make it work. We get the prospects. It just is what it is, and they do a good job of it. So I could see a high ceiling for these guys, but I don't, at worst, I could see them floating around 500. But with that, they just always seem to rally around each other, and I guess, they know how to play their game and they play it well. So, and they've got a lot to look forward to in the future. So the Rays aren't going away, no matter if you like them, if you hate them. They're here.
Yeah, they're not going to go completely away, but to see them in the World Series every year, it's going to take some luck and some guys that really step up their game or some moves. Yeah. I think you're just going to see them in the playoffs or hanging around the hunt every year for the next 5-6 years.
Well, I don't want to sound like this was the reason that they were there at all, but I do think the shortened season helped them. I think that in a marathon, like the MLB season usually is, the better teams usually get that edge, like the Yankees, the Dodgers won the World Series. You could say partly thanks to that shortened season, but those teams do, in the long run, end up winning their divisions usually because they have all the talent.
Yeah, talent is, outweighs
exactly
a hot streak.
So I'm not going to sit here and bash the Rays that they're not good or that they didn't deserve to be in the World Series, but I think that did help the way that they play.
Their manager doesn't deserve to be on the team anymore, and he's terrible.
And there's a prime reason they don't pitch their starters at all, so they pitch their relievers all the time. Say that's a 162 game season.
You can say that process works all you want. Sometimes it's just you could just watch the game and then you just coach it like a normal person would coach it.
Yeah.
Because you lost that World Series last year because of that, and they have to deal with that for the next 5 years. You already got rid of the player. There's other players in that locker room that are going, come on.
Yeah.
There's got to be a couple guys.
Yeah. And you know the way that Blake Snell talks, and how he is around baseball. He knows. I mean, he laughed at a joke that the Wendy's account made on Twitter.
Yeah, Wendy's.
Yeah.
Ripped them apart.
Yeah.
Wendy's ripped the Rays apart. So, I mean, that's not going to help them.
No.
And then they're in a tough division. That's what we talk about with the AL East here. They're in a tough division. So it's going to be hard for them. But, they got a pretty good team. That's the best way you can sum it up. Shortest way is they're pretty good. They're not great. They're better than decent. They're just pretty good.
Yeah. And that's the Rays, always. Or at least for the last while here.
Yeah, because they were always really not good.
They were always the bottom.
The worst.
The bottom team, yeah. But moving on to the next team, the Blue Jays. Put them just that, like I said, just that little bit higher than the Rays, just because I think they made some good additions, and I think that they're kind of going for it. So the projected lineup is George Springer, Marcus Semien, Bo Bichette, Teoscar Hernandez, Vlad Jr., Kevin Biggio, Lourdes Gurriel Jr., Rowdy Tellez, and Danny Jensen. The projected rotation is Hyunjin Ryu, Robbie Ray, Nate Pearson, Tanner Roark, and Steven Matz. The lineup, I think, is fantastic. I think that there's obviously better things you can do. Maybe you could have a better catcher than Danny Jansen. Maybe you could have a better first baseman than Rowdy Tellez and all that. But I think for getting Marcus Semien for the 1 year, I think he's going to do good. I think he's going to bounce back. George Springer's, he's good as long as he's on the field and healthy. Bo Bichette's good. Teoscar Hernandez is good. Vlad Guerrero Jr. is good. Kevin Biggio's good. Lourdes Gurriel Jr. is good. So the lineup to me is a big strength. I think that they're going to hit well. The rotation, on the other hand, leaves a lot to be desired, in my opinion. I think Nate Pearson is one of the more electric fastballs that we've seen. So Nate Pearson's going to be very good, I think. Ryu is on the complete opposite end of the spectrum, throws like 88. So he's a little bit of a junk ball guy. You could get a really good season out of him. You could get a not-so-great season out of him. I tend to think that he'll be on the better side. Robbie Ray, he's just going to walk everybody, but he's...
And strike everyone else out.
Yeah, so Robbie Ray's, he's okay. Having him as your number 2 guy doesn't look great, but maybe, they could always... This is a team that if they're in a position to, they can make trades for a starter, or who knows, there's still starters out there, so you could always get someone. Tanner Roark and Steven Matz are just, they're your 4th and 5th guys. I mean, you can see what you get out of Matz, but, I mean, so in short, the rotation doesn't wow me. The hitting is I think, going to be fantastic. The bullpen got improved with Kirby Yates. I think that's probably really the notable guy out of the bullpen.
That's it.
But that's it. Exactly. So what else do you have? You have AJ Cole. You have
Tyler Chatwood.
You have Ross Stripling. I mean,
David Phelps.
Yeah, I mean, the bullpen's going to, I think, give you a pretty average bullpen.
And you lost Ken Giles. Let's just get right down to it. He pitched very, very well at the Blue Jays, his short tenure there. So you lose him.
Mm-hmm.
So you say you got Kirby Yates, but Kirby Yates should be able to put up a year probably a little bit better than Giles, but that's...
Yeah, it's not going to really change the whole bullpen.
You still needed, like I say, you had still Giles, and Giles was healthy, and then you had Yates. Now you're talking, all right, now you got a 1-2 punch. Now you just got to make it work to get there.
Yeah.
Now you need to make it a lot of it work to get there.
Yeah. So that's...
Or let the starters pitch all day, which, come on, no one lets people pitch no more.
No.
3 innings, Ricky, good.
And with this rotation, it's not like you have the guys to do that. So, in my opinion, I think that the offense is going to carry them through a lot of games. So I could see the Blue Jays putting up a fair amount of runs, but also giving up a fair amount of runs. So I don't think they're quite there for the division, but I think that's with some trades, and we'll see what happens with the offseason when maybe some guys get signed to longer deals. I think that they could be a force in the East with the Rays and with the Yankees. But I don't know where you'll get into their prospect pool. But I think that they're a good up-and-coming team, and I think if I'm a Toronto fan, I'm pretty excited this year. I'm going to be honest. I would think that they're a pretty good they got a good wild card shot.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. The Blue Jays, they got a very good team and a young team who's going for it. Kind of similar to what the Padres are, kind of pushing all their chips to the middle of the table. But if you're a Toronto fan, you're really actually angry because you didn't watch them last year. They weren't in Toronto last year. They're not going to be in Toronto again this year, right?
Yeah.
For the most part, or at least half a year. The only year you made the playoffs in 20 years, and you can't watch them. And now they're not even in Toronto again. So that just seems to be the way that goes over there, the luck they got. So hopefully they can get back to playing Toronto this year, because as of right now, they're not.
Yeah, there's still the rules, obviously, with the travel.
Yeah, I don't even know where they're playing, because they can't really play in the Buffalo Stadium anymore because minors are coming back.
That's a good point. I didn't even think about that.
So that could hurt them.
That's
and
true.
It's going to just got to be on a bad nerve for the fans. But
yeah.
I think they'll figure it out. I think it might be a half-season mess, but they'll figure it out.
Sure.
But to get to the players, Ryu, for the most part, is pretty good. He's had some concerns, a couple years ago with Dodgers, where it was like, what's going on? Robbie Ray, if you can just straighten him out a little bit, you got some crazy potential, but he's, I think he's pretty set in his ways almost at this point. Nate Pearson might be one of the best prospect pitchers we've seen in a long time, but at least right now in the league. Steven Matz, he's not good. I don't know, if he pitches against the Phillies, you're giving up 8 runs first inning, so just tie that right up. Tanner Roark might be the most consistent pitcher they got in the rotation. He's never been a superstar. Maybe also team maybe one time. He's always like 3.9 ERA and just 5-6 innings every time. Want to put him in the bullpen, whatever. So he's a good guy to have, kind of wrap up the rotation.
Yeah.
And Ross Stripling could jump in there. He's got he's pretty decent. Or be in the bullpen. Either one of those guys could be the bullpen and kind of be like, oh, okay. Kirby Yates in the bullpen should be pretty well. He coming off an injury though. Gotta remember that. Then you got AJ Cole. He had 2 good months with the Yankees years back.
Yeah.
Really guy who hasn't really figured anything out. Tyler Chatwood is like Robert Wade Jr. He's just gonna throw a lot of balls and just you don't know where that's going. And then David Phelps is just a kind of a journeyman, but a name that everyone kind of seen around baseball now. Danny Jansen, great defensive catcher. Last year, a little bit better offensively. If he can continue getting offensively better, he'll be pretty good because he was a higher prospect, and defensively he's very good. Then you got Vlad Jr., who lost a bunch of weight. I think he's going to try playing first and third this year. DHing, they're going to kind of be flexible. He's got to hit better. Last year, I don't think he hit that great. Defensively, he doesn't play that great over there, but I think losing this weight and really getting down to hey, I got to be better, that's going to help him and help the team in the long run. Rowdy Tellez is really just a fill-in player. He does some nice things for you, but he's he knows his role kind of guy. Biggio, I think offensively he's just going to get the average, make sure the average is up, not striking out so much. Good player. Marcus Simeon's got to bounce back. Joe Panic on the bench, everyone kind of knows Joe Panic as well. Good little base hit guy. Bo Bichette, going to be one of those superstar players. Lurius Gurriel is one of those guys no one really wants to talk about, but he's probably arguably their best player on the team, maybe before the addition to Springer. Springer, obviously, like I just said, he's one of the better players, if not the best player on the team. But he, we don't know what he's doing leaving Houston with the trash cans and his injuries he's got. We don't really know what kind of shape he's going to be in. If he doesn't know what pitch is coming, and if he stays healthy. Randall Grichuk just face the Yankees. He's a 300 hitter and he's going to crush 30 home runs. That guy, he's a maniac. Good player. I mean, Teoscar Hernandez. I mean, everyone on this team. I even named a couple backups there, are good players. They just got to, who's playing where? Is Biggio playing outfield? Is Biggio playing second? Is Bichette playing short? Is Simeon playing third? Where's Vlad playing? Are you going to accept taking some playtime cuts? Or are that all going to flow together? If that all flows together, everyone knows their position and everything works well, that's going to help them. If some guys are a little, snake bitten about where they're going and where they're playing and where they're batting, that could cause some issues because they have a lot of guys who, more than 9 guys to fit in 9 spots. So we'll see. And you're young.
Yeah, which is...
So they're not really they showed improvement last year. But how young guys go. Some years it's improvement, next year kind of down, then they're back into improvement. They're not in that point where it's okay, it's kind of consistently improving. They're not quite there yet for some of these guys. So we'll see what they can get. But they got a good team. They got a really good team and a really young team. But I think they'll need a bullpen guy. Maybe a starter. But Nate Pearson, man, that guy's electric. Man, I'm excited to see him.
Yeah, me too.
And then prospect-wise, they got a shortstop or outfielder. He's athletic enough to where they don't know where to play him. That's Austin Martin. Shortstop Jordan Grotians. Pitcher Simeon Woods Richardson. That's 3. I think all 3 of those guys were the top 100. I think Richardson was towards the bottom of the top 100. Relatively, they got a pretty good farm system. I don't want to get too much into the rankings. I've never really looked at them. I would say they're definitely top half, top 15, maybe right around 10. Could even be a little bit more than that, but I would say they're worst case they're top 15. So they got a pretty good farm system they can rely on for trades and whatnot, and they got a really good team. They're sitting in the mid 80s win wise, I think, and I think they're easily pushing wild card in division, and they're only gonna hopefully they're only gonna get better. But the idea is some of these young guys, he's gotta make sure they keep progressing. So they got a good shot. They're a good team, and they got a really good shot at the playoffs and a division this year, but tough division to play in, and they don't really know where they're playing yet, which is really going to hurt them.
Yeah, I agree. I agree 100%. I think that they're good. Fans should be excited for them. I don't think they're quite there with the division yet. I think that with some pitching help, I think they will be there, or they can be there if they decide to make those moves and some prospects work out and stuff like that. So I think that they can be there soon. They seem like they're ready to go. Made a big signing in Springer, which is good for them. So, yeah, I think a wild card berth is within their grasp for sure. It's especially depending on how some teams do in the West. They could be right there for the taking for them if some of the West teams kind of cannibalize themselves.
Yeah, and their big thing too, which was a problem last year, was consistency throughout the whole team, but especially hitting. They would go a whole game without hitting and then score 10 runs in one inning.
Yeah.
And then not score again. Or score 10 runs first inning and not score again. Or score 10 in the third inning and not score again. Or strike out 30 times in one game and then, not strike out once the next game. So they got to get more consistent there. Pitching's always, you always want to get more consistent pitching.
Yeah.
So no matter what team you are, I don't care if you're, the greatest pitching team of all time, you always want to have more consistent pitching. That's just the way it goes. But hitting, you got to be more consistent. You can't put up the 10 and then not hit and strike out and then not strike out. You just even it out a little bit. That's all. Just even it a little bit more consistent. We've seen that even, I think, in the playoffs where they're just, dead and then all of a sudden they rally and then they're dead again.
Yeah.
It's like you got to be a little bit more consistent.
Yeah.
If you could be a little bit more consistent, cut some of the strikeouts out. I mean, you're talking a playoff team who has a chance to surprise people into the deeper part of the playoffs.
Yeah, and that's will come with these young guys playing together more because you have Bichette, Vlad, and Biggio all together. Lourdes Gurriel Jr.'s now there a little bit. Teoscar Hernandez. You get these guys all together.
Danny Jensen. They all kind of grew up together over there.
Yeah, so you get them all
Nate
Together.
Pearson. I mean, we can just keep throwing names out here at this point.
Yeah, yeah. So the longer they play together, more seasons, the more they gel, and the more they're a team. So I think that they got that working for them. If they can, like you said, if they can keep it consistent and they can keep it playing their game, their way. So, they're looking good this season. Actually, I'm kind of excited to watch them. And the last team that we have to talk about is obviously the Yankees. Their projected lineup is DJ LeMahieu, Aaron Judge, Luke Voit, Giancarlo Stanton, Gleyber Torres, Clint Frazier, Aaron Hicks, Gio Urshela, and Gary Sanchez. Their projected rotation is Garrett Cole, Jameson Taillon, Corey Kluber, Jordan Montgomery, and then a mix of Domingo Germán, Davy Garcia, and Luis Severino's on the IL. He is going to come back this season. It's just when. So their rotation will look different by the time he comes back, considering that the Yankees always seem to get hurt at this point. So I'm sure the lineup and the rotation will look completely different by April 5th. So that kind of sums up my trepidation with the Yankees. I think that this is one of the sickest lineups in baseball and has been one of the sickest lineups in baseball. But the right fielder has to stay healthy, and that same goes for what is, I guess, now the DH in Giancarlo Stanton. The big two guys, if they stay healthy, because DJ LeMahieu is going to be there, and he's going to be good. The hope and the expectation now is Luke Voit is going to be there, and he's going to be good and consistent. Gleyber Torres with a longer season, I think that he's going to have more of a season akin to 2019. Clint Frazier is an inconsistent player, although he has some good talent. He has a good bat when he's hot. His defense did get better. Aaron Hicks is a pretty consistent guy, fantastic defense. Gio Urshela, again, fantastic defense. I've grown a little bit on Urshela. I think that he can really round out this team well. And Gary Sanchez is a little bit of a wild card. I guess you could say he can't do any worse at this point. Geez. I mean, so you got to figure you get a little better season out of him. But I think the main thing here, and just to go over the rotation bullpen a little bit, they have good pitching. And overall, I think that the hitting is obviously what carries them. If the hope for Brian Cashman is that you have Cole, you have Kluber has a little bit of a bounce back and pitches kind of how Kluber can. Taillon's going to be good. And then the rotation kind of rounds out after that. The back end of the bullpen is going to be sick with Chapman and Chad Green and, Zach Britton and those guys. It did take a little hit losing Canely and Ottavino, but the bullpen still, you want the back end to be good.
Yeah.
So pitching-wise, they're okay. The offense is obviously going to carry you, but my big thing for this team, while I do still think they're the best team in the East, they're the team to beat, and they should win the division, is the health. And that's just what we talk about a lot, what Yankee fans talk about a lot, and what third-party fans, just baseball fans, talk about a lot, is this team just can't stay on the field, whoever you are. I mean, generally, you think LeMahieu's going to be there, and you think at this point Voigt's going to be there. I mean, he's getting hit in the hand and getting hit in the face. He's still out there. But guys like Judge and Stanton stubbed their toe, and they're out for 8 months. So
yeah.
I don't know where I do think they'll end up winning the division. I do think they are the team to beat in, when they're healthy, they are the team to beat just about in the league. But they got to stay healthy.
Yeah, and I'll go into the Yankees a little bit, and I like talking a little shit about the Yankees because they're stupid. That's just how it is. But to go into, I mean, you got Garrett Cole, boom, that's fine. Kluber, I think I said it last week or the week before. That's a good signing because you got him for less than what Tanaka would have got. I think their hope is he's probably going to put up a similar to Tanaka year with a higher upside, with the ability to be more like Kluber. So that's why they did that deal. Taillon, young guy. I mean, he's got some really great potential. He's with Cole again. I think it's going to be a big deal. But then you got Jordan Montgomery, Gumby, Debbie Garcia, Domingo Herman, Luis Severino. Those guys, they got a lot of question marks right there. You don't know really what you're really getting. Cole's gonna be pretty consistent. Kluber, question marks. Italian, question marks. They haven't pitched much. Jordan Montgomery, his nickname's Gumby. Younger guy, had some injuries, but last year was he's a 4 or 5 guy, which is fine. Debbie Garcia, young guy, pitched very, very well last year for the most part. Herman coming back from missing a little over a year. Severino doesn't pitch ever, so when he comes back, let's see what they get out of him. So a lot of question marks right there, but potential.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they're going for, potential. And the odds are some of them turn out to be good, some of them turn out to be okay. One turn out to be nothing. That's just kind of how it goes for the most part. And then bullpen-wise, Chad Green started off bad, then pitched very well. Chapman, he knows he's losing velocity. He even said it the other day, but he knows how to pitch a little bit better now.
Yeah.
He's been really good. Britton, good. Simple. Done. Darren O'Day is a great signing. That's great for them. And he mixed it up. You got a lefty who throws sinker balls. You got a lefty who throws 105 miles per hour. You got a righty who throws really hard. Now you got a righty who throws the ball from underneath the ground. It's just switched everything up. Sessa, he's okay out of the bullpen. Jonathan Loizaco's got some pretty good potential. They keep liking him.
Mm-hmm.
So pitching-wise, they're pretty good. They signed Justin Wilson today, which was a good move for them. Who was also there, I believe, 2009 with Phil Koch and those guys. He was part of them really young guys. So that's a good move. So pitching-wise, bullpen I think is pretty set up. Not many question marks there. Rotation, you got talent. You just got some question marks. And then it comes to lineup. You got Ernie, Gary Sanchez. He's terrible. Defense not great. Offense, he might get more hits with his glove at the plate. He might go up there with a glove and hit the ball with his glove and maybe get more hits because he's terrible. So he's got to be better. You got to hope. He was barely even on the interstate half the year last year.
I know.
Let alone over the Mendoza line. So Luke Voigt, tough guy. You got to hope he keeps playing well, which that seems to be kind of the way it is. DJ LeMahieu's, he's just consistent. That's what he does. He just hits and, he doesn't smile and he just goes about his business. And he's got a lot of that. Gio Urshela coming back from a little bit of the elbow injury. When the elbow was feeling good, he played well.
Yeah.
Defensively, he plays well. Still have a little hope, little question marks there because, he was a 240 hitter. But, he should be a 260 hitter with really good defense at the, kind of pretty safely. Then you get Gleyber Torres, he's a really good young player. Defensively, he's okay at shortstop. He could be better, but he's okay at shortstop. But just he's really good, really young. A guy I always really liked, just never does anything. That's Tyler Wade. This guy could just fly, plays every position. He's just got to give me a 240, 250 average, and he's a really good player. But he can't bat 200. Well, Gary Sanchez, but Clint Frazier, I don't know what to do with. I don't care what the stats say. He's not a good outfielder. I just don't care. I don't care what the metrics say. Watch him. Look at his eyes. Look with your eyes. The guy runs in circles to catch the ball. I don't care what they say. He dove on that one play. They loved it. He caught the ball, then dove. I don't want to hear it. Clint Frazier can hit. He just 1 week he strikes out 88 times. The next week he's batting 500. I don't know what to do with him. He's offensively good. Defensively he's not good. He's just there. They got to figure something out with him. He's either playing all the time or get rid of him. I've been saying that for I think 2 years now. Talkman is a good guy I like on the team because he's guy could probably start with a lot of teams and teams ask about him, but he's good. He's a good backup when you got real good outfield. Mm-hmm. He's got to like Talkman, good defensively, good base runner, really good base runner. Mm-hmm. He's just a good player, good against lefties.
He is a lefty.
Yeah, and he's good against lefties. And he's a great defender. Aaron Hicks got to stay healthy, but really good player, switch hitter. He's just a 260 guy, switch hitter at some home runs. It's cool. The guy in right field, he doesn't play. That's the problem. He's got to play, or get rid of him. I don't care I don't care how much you like the guy. Either play or go home. If he doesn't play 150 games this year, then he shouldn't be at the Yankees no more. You got to play games. I don't know what the problem is. You're going to be the captain. You show up. I don't know what to tell you. It's simple as that. I mean, it's not. You can't really compare it too much. But you got CC last year or 2 years ago. He threw till his arm fell off.
Yeah.
And you get what? A little boo boo, and he's done for the year. He had the rib injury. You had that for 7 months. You didn't know what it was. Then you finally figure it out. Well, geez, figure it out. Where's it hurt? Right here. All right. No, this is the problem.
Yeah.
What do you? My head hurts. No, it's your rib hurts. No, it's my head. Let's figure it out. What the problem is? Jeez. He's got to play. If he stays healthy for even 140 games, they're good.
Yeah.
If he plays 100 games, he's garbage. Just get rid of him. Greg Allen, whatever. Him. So he's a good backup player. Stanton, another one. You got to play. You got to play. Stop babysitting him. You're paying him $1 billion. Play the game. Just play the game. Just show up. Oh, he's a little banged up. I don't care. Oh, you're not 100%, so you take a 70% swing. Oh, so it went 450 instead of 550. Just play the game. You don't field, which is terrible as it is. They don't let him field. Just play. Let him play, because when he's healthy, he's really good.
Oh, yeah.
Judge has been some sways, kind of up and down. Stanton's been really good with the Yankees.
Oh, yeah.
He just doesn't play. So, that's their problem. The backup catching, I don't know where to go with there. And my other problem with this team is they don't have lefty pitchers, and they don't have lefty hitters. I don't know if they know what a southpaw is or what a lefty is. I don't know if they know what the problem is over there. So they got to figure that out, because you can't just have all righties, everything. They got to figure out a way to get a lefty starting pitcher other than Montgomery, and you got to get a lefty hitter that starts. And you can't bring Brett Gardner back. Holy Christ, if they bring him back, they won't win.
It's funny, before you go on, 3 of the 4 bench players I have are lefties. You got Mike Talkman, Tyler Wade, and Jay Bruce.
Yeah, and Jay Bruce was a great signing. Yeah. I always liked Jay Bruce. Always liked him. But he brings you an outfielder. If he makes the roster, he doesn't, who cares? If he makes the roster, he's a left-handed player who can play first, who can play outfield, and he's got power. He's been around now. He's been on some winning teams and some bad teams. That's a good signing. But you have no lefties that start. Your only so-called lefty is Hicks. He's a switch hitter against a righty.
Yeah.
Against lefties, sure. Your lineup's pretty set up. But you only face a lefty 33% of the time. That's it. So they got to figure something out, because they got no lefties, and that's not good. The Yankees have unbelievable talent. They have some question marks with the starting pitching. They have a few with the lineup. Sanchez is a question mark. Voit, really not much of a question mark there. Urshela, not much there anymore. The outfield, there's no real question marks. There's really no question marks offensively anywhere other than catching. Pitching, it's mostly starting pitching. Rotation, the bullpens, there's no question marks really there. A couple smaller ones, every team has long relief, or who's this guy, who's the fifth inning guy. You don't worry about that. Coaching, you got to be better. Aaron Boone's got to be better. The team's got to know what they're doing. They got to stop having everybody hurt. That falls on the team. You got to learn how to bunt and steal bases and run. You can't just rely on home runs. If they bring Gardner back, they're not winning the division. I don't care. I don't care if Babe Ruth came back. That's how bad he is. Brett Gardner hasn't been good in 2.5 years. That's simple as that. So just stop playing that guy. God, I like Gardner. He just doesn't help the team. I'd rather have Cameron Maben. He's good. Gardner's useless. Good. God. The team's got talent. No, nothing about that. The team's got some super talent. A few question marks. They gotta figure it out. And you gotta be on the field. If Judge is your captain, he's gotta be on the field. Because if they're gonna pay him the $500 million he's asking for, then you gotta be on the goddamn field. And you gotta fix that stupid gap in your teeth if you have all that money. Because he's just,
God.
He's so good.
That's the problem. He's so good, you just can't stay on that fucking field.
And just fight once in a while. Like, just yell at somebody a little bit or something. You're 6'7". If you get a bad call, tell the umpire he sucks. You're 6'7". You can't be a nice guy all the time. Jeez, there's no one on that team that gets fired up other than Voit, and he's a maniac.
Oh,
so
yeah.
You can't listen to him. You can't follow him. He's too crazy. Mayu, he didn't get to say nothing. That's the way he should be. Like Stanton and Judge, Stanton says some stuff. But Judge, you're 6'7". He's like, well, it's a bad call. Say something to him. It's like, you sucked. All right. Get better. Done. All right. He's going to be better. You think he's not going to listen to your 6'7"? So, prospect-wise, they got a pretty, they got an okay farm system. Jason Dominguez, he's like 12 years old, and he's been around forever now. I heard that with Sanchez. That's what I'm worried about. I heard Sanchez for 10 years that this kid's going to be great, and now he can't, he couldn't hit the water if he was swimming in it. So, Clark Schmidt, we've seen him a little bit last year. He's got some potential. That's their top 100 guys right there. That's it. You only have 2. Oswald Peraza, shortstop guy, and then this guy, they knew what they were doing here. They drafted a catcher, Austin Wells. He's going to be pretty good, I think. So Sanchez got to watch his back here, because this guy's going to be around. Maybe not this year. Maybe in the next year if Sanchez doesn't play around, doesn't play well. But in the next 2 years, you'll see that guy. And then Estevan Florial, who we always kind of seen around. He's always been pretty good prospect. He just never gets a touch the field for the Yankees.
Yeah, just can't break through.
Yeah. So they got an okay farm system. They're in the middle, somewhere 10 to 20 or 11 to 20. I would say in the teens somewhere. They got a pretty decent farm system. They got 2 real good guys, and then the rest is just okay. But they got a great team. They got a great roster. They got a great team. They struggle with lefties, which is a problem. They struggle with health, which is a problem. And I think their coaching, after the last 2 years, I kind of always was like, not bad, but not great. So they got to figure out the way to stay on the field, figure out lefty situation, and they got to coach better, which is all things you can really do. And they all go hand. Well, the lefty thing not so much. The other two things go hand in hand. So they can figure that out. They're going to win a division. They got a shot at 100 wins. They got a shot. I mean, they're deep in the playoffs, and they're in the World Series. They have to be in the World Series type of team. If you don't, it's like, what is the problem? Similar to the Dodgers not winning those years. It's like, you're paying $1 billion. You have to win. Yankees aren't quite paying that much money. They're actually under the tax because of the prospect. These guys haven't got paid yet. But the team is just way too much talent to not be in the World Series and not win a World Series this year or next year, or at least the next 3 years. They got to win a World Series and probably be in another one.
Yeah, and you'd like to think they would just get there at this point, because they haven't been there since 2009. So
I'm very hard on the Yankees just because they're stupid. They do dumb things. They have no lefties. I get on them, but they have a great team. They do a lot of good things. But when you watch them all the time and you follow them and stuff, it's hard to not be like, what is your problem? what is Clint Frazier doing for us when he's in minors for 7 years? And Duhart can't catch a ball if you hand it to him. So what are we doing with him? You could trade both of those guys and go get something. There's so many things you can do, but they don't do. Like, what if he gets hurt? We have Duhart. Oh. What if you just traded him and go get a pitcher? Or something, Or what if you just stayed on the field for more than, 2 times all year? That'd be great. So they got some question marks, but overall, I mean, probably top 3 overall talent in the league. And, I mean, maybe 1. They're either 1 or 2, I think.
Yeah.
And if you really don't like them, you could put them at 3, but they're top 3 overall talent in the whole league.
Yeah, when the team's on the field, they're healthy, and they play their game, they are a top 3 team, hands down. But
they're really tough to beat at home.
Oh, yeah.
Fans and no fans, even with the short porch and whatnot, both teams get to use it. They're tough at home. Some teams are, you think, every team's tough at home. No, some teams aren't that tough at home. They're tough at home.
Definitely.
And they travel well recently. They went on the road and played very well, too. But they're tough at home. They get home field advantage. They're very tough at home. I think they only had a handful of losses there last year. 10?
Yeah,
not even.
It felt like any time there was a home stretch, it was like, oh, thank God.
They had like 9 losses at home last year.
Yeah, it was. They played well.
They were like a little over 500 on the road, I think.
Mm-hmm.
They played very well at home. So they're an exciting team. Just if you're a fan of them, you could be a little bit more critical of them because you watch them and follow them all the time. If you're more of an outsider, you either don't like them or you're like, oh, what is everyone, what are they complaining about? Kind of thing. Because you don't really know the inside, some of the inside stuff because you don't follow them as much. So being, a fan of them, you can kind of be more critical of them because you see the problems of the team. But they're, to keep it basic, even though I ran into them for so long here, they're a great team. They're a World Series bound team, and if they're not there, it's a problem. So that's how good they are.
Agreed.
So that's pretty much what you get. The division winners, and there should be World Series bound.
Agreed.
And if not that, they're bust.
A team of this caliber at this point should have a pennant. At the very least, you should be there. Yeah. But, does a full 162 game season change the outcome of last season? Maybe. Does now say we get 162 games? Does that change the outcome? You would think. Yeah.
I think with them it was they got caught in the regular season's boring kind of thing. We just want to be in the playoffs, and we expect to be in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. And I think that caught them a little bit last year, and then some of the injuries. I think it caught them. Like, hey, we're not guaranteed a playoff spot. Mm-hmm. No one is. So you got to play to earn it. And I think last year that kind of caught up to them a little bit. So I think this year they're going to earn it, and they know they're going to earn it. So I think that's what they want to play this year. Last year, I think they were like, oh, we're the best team. Mm-hmm. We're good. We'll be in the playoffs. Especially expanded playoffs, we'll be there. And all of a sudden, a couple injuries, they don't play well. They're like, whoa, what's going on? So I think they're going to earn their playoff spot this year, which is the best thing that can happen. You got to play to fight to get there. That's why those teams who just sneak in, they earn their way there. Yeah. They're ready to roll. A team like the Rays, who they got to earn everything they get. You can't get handed nothing. So the Yankees got to play like they're going to earn everything they got. And I think they got a lot of guys who are going to do that. Kluber and Talion got to prove themselves. Judge got to prove himself. Stanton's got to prove himself. Clint Frazier's still trying to prove himself. Gary Sanchez, he's just got to prove that he's somebody. Try being somebody else at this point because he ain't working. LeMahieu's he's going to be fine. Don't worry about him. So they got a lot of guys who are going to prove themselves. And they got to prove themselves as a team. And Boone's got to prove himself. So I think Yankee fans are kind of losing hope on him.
Yeah, I think we are. It's getting rough watching
Yeah,
him
I mean,
sometimes.
he's not bad,
No, but
but he's like Girardi when he was a Yankee. You're like, yeah, okay.
yeah, he's okay, but the team helps him a lot.
It's just like there's no like, yeah, that's my guy.
Mm-hmm.
Like even when they signed him, I was like, okay,
Yeah,
like I need that guy. It's like, yeah, that's
yeah,
him. Give me Duster.
yeah. I was just gonna say.
I'm fired up right there, with him. But so we'll see. We'll see with them. But
Yeah, overall, I think that they have the best talent. They should win the division. I think that shouldn't even
best
be
talent in the AL. I think that's you got to at least give them that.
Yeah, at this point, with the Astros falling a little bit, Athletics falling a little bit, the White Sox are coming up, but I think that the Yankees do have the better.
Proven talent.
Exactly.
White Sox still have way raw talent.
Yeah.
But I think they're still, they got to see how it is with them. The Yankees are more proven talent. Like they're going to be good.
Yeah.
The White Sox are still like, hey, we'll say this year is going to be a proven year. Next year, I think they're more of a guaranteed team.
Yeah. But we'll get into them next week because we have the Central to talk about next week. So that is our AL East kind of look at the division without giving up, the who we think is exactly going to win the division, who we think is exactly going to make the wild card. We're going to give our records, where we think they're going to finish right around some of these teams. But that's a preliminary look and kind of a deep dive into the depth chart and prospects of these teams. So that's the AL East. Next week we'll come with the AL Central, like I said. And that's about all I have to say about those teams. Like I said, just to reiterate with the Yankees just real quick, as long as it comes down to me, as long as they're on the field, because that's just a good team. And I think that that's different from all these other teams. The Blue Jays got good talent, but there's no real question for them on the field. Rays are always on the field. They'll play their game. Red Sox and Orioles aren't going to be quite as competitive, but they don't have the injury bug quite like. The Yankees injury bug thing is pretty unique. It's kind of like a Mets thing. And if they can overcome that and they have that one season, you got to think something's got to give at some point. They're going to have a healthy season. And if that happens,
the Dodgers.
Then, yeah, exactly.
So luck's going to be on their side at some point. The only difference between the Mets and the Yankees thing, I don't want to get into this too much. The Mets almost seem to, hey, get back.
Mm-hmm.
Setback. Get back, setback. Yankees are like, take your time. I've been ready for a month. You get another month.
Yeah.
It's like, get them back. Don't rush them, but get them back. Well, some teams, I think some of the Mets issues are they're trying to force things too much. Even with some of the signings in years past and moves they've been, it's like it's just forcing it too much. Like, hey, we gotta go. Sit back, let them do their thing, and they'll be okay. So if you're ready, you're ready. If you're not, you're not. Simple as that.
Yeah, I agree.
That's what the Yankees got to do. Don't rush them back. But hey, come back. LeMahieu, the messed up thumb, he came back a week earlier. He was supposed to played fine. We don't even really know what was wrong with his foot, but it was not great with his foot. He played every day. 2 years ago, Stanton struggled through that hamstring injury for a lot of the year. Let him. He can do it. Let him do it. So these guys they can play through injuries and some beating. What they used to do. You can let them do that.
They're big boys. They can handle it.
Paying them all that money. You pay all the money for a lawnmower. You ain't gonna cut the grass half the time, right?
That's true.
So that's what you got to do. I pay all this money for these guys. They got to play.
Yeah.
So that's where we're at. And that's not just for the Yankees. There's a lot of teams who do that. Almost every team babysits the guys. So let them go.
Yeah.
So
I agree. But that's what I got on these teams. We'll return to the AL East when we do our overall episode. So that's all I got for them. If you want some final notes on some teams before we get into the trivia question.
No. I mean, I think AL East is strong, and it's 3 teams strong, really. But AL East would be a pretty good division, and it should be an exciting division to watch and keep up with, even for not just this year, for the years to come, because of some of the prospects.
Yeah, it'll be a good division for a while, for sure.
Yeah. But to get to the trivia question, it's kind of hard to find one that relates to team previews. So just threw a random one in there, and that's who was the first ever, or the 2 players, an AL and NL, who were the 2 first Platinum Glove winners. And the award is if you don't even, some people might not even know that there's a Platinum Glove. It came out in 2011. And it gives it to the best defensive player in each league, Platinum Glove. And it came out in 2011. And it gives 1 a year for obviously 1 NL, 1 AL. So who were the two winners? Who was the inaugural AL and inaugural NL winners? And Mike got the NL rather easily. And the AL, he was I think thought about it,
I did think about it.
but was a little surprised
Mm-hmm.
because of his age, I think.
Yeah.
And the NL was Yadier Molina, who won 2011, 2012, 2014, 2015, because that's what he does.
Makes sense.
And in the AL, the inaugural winner in 2011 was Adrian Beltre, who won 2011 and 2012. So the inaugural winners of the first 2 years were Yadier Molina in the NL and Adrian Beltre in the AL.
Yeah, I got Yachty. I knew that was pretty easy, I think. But Adrian Beltre, he was in there. It was I thought about it, but I was like, I was like, Platinum Glove, is he that good? I was like, I was like, yeah, but no.
In the running.
Yeah.
Like, he's got to be in the running because he's pretty good over there.
I was like, he's a Gold Glove guy, but is he the Platinum Glove guy? Yeah, exactly. That's how I was like, well, Matt Chapman, but he won it later.
Yeah.
For good reason.
yeah. So, that's a trivia question. It's not, some sort of 1890s question we sometimes have. It was a pretty relative one, and a pretty one we've seen, 10 years ago, literally 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So within the last decade, we've seen that award come about, and we've seen the inaugural winners. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah. I forgot it was 2011. I thought it was closer to 2013 or 2014 that they did it. But that's cool. I like that they have that. It's like who's the best Gold Glove, essentially, is what they're giving it out for.
Yeah.
But, so that's the AL East. We'll get into the AL Central next week and then finish with the AL West and then flip over to the NL. So we got 6 more episodes coming out of the 7. And then the final predictions episode should go live just about when the season starts. It kind of all lines up nice. And then we can start getting into our regular show week by week, kind of analyzing the week in baseball. So we got all that coming. So I'm excited to talk about the AL Central because I think there's 2 teams there that are really vying for that division, and one team that's very, very exciting. And we talked about them. We've talked about how exciting they are.
Yeah. These are always cool to do a deep dive, especially with the teams that aren't that great because you get to see the prospects and who they could trade away. So it's pretty cool to see. And then, you hopefully you say something good about a guy and he comes up in the year or two and he plays good and you feel good about your predictions and a little bit of research you do. So AL Central should be exciting, as every division is exciting. But some quick news. Obviously, a couple guys got signed. I'm not going to really go into that too much. But minor league baseball will be back this year. They did mess with the teams a little bit, cut some teams out, switch divisions, stuff like that. But minor league baseball will be back in some fashion, which is great, obviously, for the young guys we talked about. But it's great for people who want to go see baseball and see some of these young guys and kind of feel that, professional baseball, but still hometown baseball kind of feel. So that's always great.
Yep.
And just over a year for our podcast.
Yeah.
This was the first episode past our year anniversary, right?
Yep. This is, we're recording this 2 days after our 1-year upload anniversary. We made the account and kind of had this all planned around the first week of February. Well, we had it planned for a while, but we had it all finally executed the first week of February. But first episode was the 13th of February last year. This will go live. The 18th? Something like that?
Yeah.
So about, 5 days after our initial upload date. But yeah, we're celebrating 1 year of Screwball. And if it wasn't for the weeks, the 2-week break we'd be fast approaching on, and just about on episode 52 to, it would make sense the 1 year. So, not to pat ourselves on the back, but not many podcasts make it even just the year. So I think we're doing good, and I hope that everyone out there is enjoying it, enjoying the trivia question and all the stuff we're putting up. So I'm proud of the podcast, and I'm glad we got it. We're gonna have hopefully a full year of doing it instead of just trying to piece together 3 months of.
Yeah, we used a lot of spare time episodes.
Mm-hmm.
We used a lot. You're like, oh man, we'll have years to. What happened?
Yeah. I know.
But it gets to show you some of the stuff we like to talk about, not even on the podcast, but off the podcast, which makes you how you think about it, and some of our knowledge of the game in all aspects of the game.
Mm-hmm.
So that's always cool.
Yeah, and there's always ways to come up with new episodes, new lists, or add filters to lists, and there's always baseball's such a sport that you could talk about so much in the history of it, and there's always something.
We just have an 1800s episode.
God,
a whole segment of just episodes on just 1800s and the George Davis fellas and
just 1800 nicknames.
Oh, yeah.
That's all we need.
High Pockets Johnson and the fellas. Yeah, you know how they are. Three Finger Brown. And,
all those crazy characters.
Yeah, sure. So,
All right, well, that's all I got for this episode. Like I said, we'll move on to the Central next week, and if unless you got anything final, I guess we'll just wrap this up.
Nope, that's it.
All right, guys. Well, thank you for listening. You can catch this podcast on Google Podcasts as well as Apple Podcasts and Spotify. You can also listen to this podcast on our regularly updated YouTube channel as well as our website, screwball.podbean.com. You can follow me on Twitter at @RealMikeLepre. You can follow me on Instagram at Mike Lepre.
And you can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at FDubs10.
You can follow our official Screwball Twitter at ScrewballPod. You can follow our official Screwball Facebook at ScrewballPod, no E in Screw. And that's it from us, guys. We'll see you next week.
Yep, take care.